Hello, my name is Divya Aadi, and today we're going to learn about how blood keeps our body in constant equilibrium. Let's start off with a brief review of what an equilibrium is. So an equilibrium is known as the state of a system in which the rate of the forward reaction is equal to the rate of the reverse reaction. Equilibrium is a very dynamic process. Even though we ourselves do not necessarily see the reactions, there are always forward and reverse reactions occurring. Here's an example of what an equilibrium reaction looks like. As you can see on one side of the arrows, letters A and B represent the reactants, whereas the C and D on the other side of the arrows represent the products. The arrows that are in between represent that both the reactants and products are at equilibrium. A really good example of a chemical equilibrium taking place is when hydrogen and iodine gases react to form hydrogen iodine. In the forward reaction of this equilibrium, both hydrogen and iodide gases react to form hydrogen iodide. And as soon as a hydrogen iodide forms, it decomposes and separates into hydrogen and iodine gas in the reverse reaction. As this pattern of reverse and forward reactions occurs slowly, the rate of the reverse reaction will increase in comparison to the rate of the forward reaction. But eventually, it will reach a point of equilibrium where the rates of the forward and backwards reactions are the same. Another thing to keep in mind is that even if the forward and reverse reactions are occurring at equal rates, there does not have to be an equal amount of products and reactants to achieve this equilibrium. Now let's take a look at how blood keeps our bodies in equilibrium. Imagine yourself as a professional runner who has a big race coming up and wants to make sure that your body is performing at its full potential so that you can win. I want you to consider all of the things that your body must do in order for it to function at its best. One of the most important things that our body can do is to provide us with energy, which is obtained by inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide. The oxygen gas enters your body and travels to the cells that contain hemoglobin, a protein found in red blood cells. Your body uses these blood cells to transfer oxygen to tissues so that your body can function. However, if your body lacks that oxygen, the cells in your body cannot carry out those responsibilities to assist you in that race. In this equilibrium reaction, on the reactant side, you can see that oxygen is binding to hemoglobin, enriching the hemoglobin with oxygen on the product side. However, the day before the race, you unfortunately get carbon monoxide poisoning. What happens in your body is that instead of oxygen binding to your hemoglobin, carbon monoxide binds much more strongly. And this can be seen in the equation, where carbon monoxide is binding to hemoglobin, creating poisoned hemoglobin on the product side. This greatly reduces the amount of oxygen that can reach the cells in your body, so external pressures are added to restore that equilibrium. This is an example of the Chatelier's principle. An external pressure, such as treatment that involves a patient breathing pure oxygen to displace the carbon monoxide, will force a shift to the right with excess oxygen added into the system to reach equilibrium and maintain the body's vital processes. And you can see this in this equilibrium equation. You can see that there's excess oxygen added to the hemoglobin with carbon monoxide on the reactant side, forcing a shift and forming hemoglobin that binds with oxygen instead on the product side. So we now have a basic understanding of how blood functions so our bodies are safe in dire situations. So let's dig deeper into how blood pH can also affect our body's equilibrium. An important component of homeostasis in our body is through the use of a buffer system, in which a solution can resist pH change upon the addition of acidic or basic components. In our blood, we have a buffer system that contains a carbonic acid, H2CO3, and a bicarbonate anion, HCO3-. To maintain a blood pH between a 7.35 and 7.45 for our body to function normally. However, if our blood pH ever rises above 7.8 or falls below 6.8, it can be very detrimental to our health and can lead to death if not treated. In the blood's buffer system, both the bicarbonate anion and the carbonic acid are in equilibrium. Initially, a carbonic acid equilibrium decomposes into CO2 gas and water, as you can see in step 1. And this results in the formation of a second equilibrium system between CO2 gas and water, which is demonstrated in step 2. We have already discussed how important carbon dioxide and oxygen are for our body's regulation of homeostasis. So the pH of blood must also be maintained through chemical equilibrium so that when we are subjected to strenuous situations, the buffer can also work to maintain that blood's pH. Now remember how we mentioned how detrimental it can be if the pH of our blood is too high or too low? Well, I have two great examples of what may happen if the fluids in our body are too acidic or too basic. The first condition I'm going to go over is called acidosis, which occurs when a person's body fluids contain an excessive amount of acid. This can happen when the acid builds up inside of us or when the bicarbonate anion is lost. A really good example of this that has to relate with blood is lactic acidosis, which is a buildup of lactic acid primarily produced in muscle cells and red blood cells. It is a particular type of acidosis that pertains to blood, and it develops when the body metabolizes carbohydrates for energy when there's a low oxygen amount in our bodies. However, there is an opposite condition of acidosis known as alkalosis, which occurs when there is a decrease in carbon dioxide levels or an increase in bicarbonate levels, causing the body to become very alkaline. Great examples of alkalosis that involve blood pH is respiratory and metabolic alkalosis. Respiratory alkalosis is caused by a low carbon dioxide level in blood, while metabolic alkalosis is caused by an excess amount of bicarbonate in the blood. The interwoven concepts of chemical equilibrium and the pH levels are a great way to understand our body's chemistry. I hope you learned something new, and thank you for watching.